Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I've been really busy the last week or two, and I totally forgot Lois and Superman Lois. I still call it Lois and Clark. I keep making that mistake. I can't help it. Okay, so this was a really eventful episode. I was kind of impressed. We start off with Lois finishing her chemo, ringing the bell and saying screw cancer. She's still 2 days away from having her mastectomy, which I'm guessing is going to happen at the end of the season because that would put her out of commission. So they're going to drag that out and do that at the end. I can't imagine she's going to be in the hospital while Clark's running around ending the season. So we have a few things happening. Chrissy is downplaying. Kyle is working out that someone in the town has superpowers. He thinks it's Jonathan, I think, one of the kids. And Chrissy is with him, and he's sort of catching on, and she's just downplaying because he's saying, "I think this is a story," and she's like, "No, just let me decide that. I know what I'm talking about." So yeah, that's. I felt bad for him because I'm like, his girlfriend's lying to him, his wife's lying to him, his daughter's lying to him, and he knows something's wrong. And I'm like, I don't like him. He's a douche, but he deserves to have honesty from the people in his life. It's not fun to watch. Now the kids, Clark finally has some time to spend with the kids, but they are like, sorry, you don't have time for us. It's only, you're always cancelling on us for Superman stuff, so we have our own lives now, so sorry, you'll have to wait for us to have time for you. So that was a little hard watching him like just running up against this wall. And they basically made plans to go to a party, so they went to the party, and we had a really awkward situation with, I think it's Jordan. I always get the two confused. The one with long hair with the superpowers. He walks up and approaches Sarah when she's talking to the mayor's son, who she's befriended because she's helping him deal with the whole "my dad's dead" blah blah blah. And he sort of walks into the conversation, and they're like, "Excuse me," and then the guy keeps talking, and he asks him another question in relation to it, and they're like, "You sort of walked in halfway, just like." And then she just basically tells him to go get a drink and basically go away. So I'm like, wow, that was pretty disrespectful and cringy. Like, okay, he sort of walked in the conversation, but why didn't they just let him into it? Like it was like he was on the outside. And then she shows up and gives him a drink, and he's like, yeah, what was that? And she's like, are you going to be like this all the time? You're always going to be so sad and pissy? And he's like, I wish I'd never fallen in love with you. And I'm like, and she's like, yeah. I do too. And I'm like, oh, that was bad. So then he wanders off because everybody sucks. I think Jonathan's the other one. He was talking to his girlfriend, and she's talking with the mayor's kid, so he just wanders off. And then the cops show up, and Sarah, being the idiot she is, gets in a car and just floors it with the lights off after she's drank. So the mayor doesn't get a second drinking charge, and their son doesn't get a second drinking charge. Well, they turn the lights on, nearly hit a deer, and I thought they were going to hit the deer, but they actually swerved, and the deer lived. That's the important thing. But yeah, they basically hit a tree, and I'm like, oh, this is a real accident. They're going to get hurt. I didn't think they'd get saved, but Jordan swept in, saved them, and next thing they know, they're outside of the car, and the car is like wrapped around a tree. But the mayor's son saw something. He saw Jonathan in his outfit for a moment, or Jordan in his outfit for a moment. So they're telling the police, well, the mayor's son's telling the police that there was an intervention, that someone saved them. And she's like, I didn't see anything, because she shouldn't know the secret, but she knows the secret and she has to cover for it. So I think telling her was a huge mistake. It's not like they were married or something. They were obviously going to break up, and they weren't going to be friends, and it was going to be messy, and then they were going to be vulnerable to her. So I always thought that was a mistake, but she's keeping the secret. Of course, Dad shows up and goes postal. Well, not quite postal, mental. Yeah, they lie to him. She shows up. He shows up with her, with Lana, and Lana was sort of taking the governor around the town, and the governor was like, we single mothers are tough chicks, and we're going to sort out the world, and I think you're great. And they're all like loving each other, except Chrissy's sitting there, and they're talking about, the cheating husbands and all this, and being replaced by a younger model, and Chrissy's like sitting there like, so, yeah. So that was all sort of awkward and funny. And then she has to run, of course, because her daughter's just, gotten in trouble with the law, and everything's going fine. They've got a united front until he brings up that he thinks she was saved by someone. And then, of course, Lana's like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's just crazy talk. So he storms out because he knows these people are lying to him, and he should be able to trust these people. They should be honest with him, but he's not in on the secret, and it's not really fair on him as a father to have his wife, ex-wife, the mother of his daughter, not tell him the truth about things with his daughter. It's pretty harsh. So then we get to, and I'll go into that last. I'll leave that to be like the end of the thing. So then we get back to the kids. They show up. One gets grounded, of course, and has a little super fit and goes upstairs. And says some pretty nasty things about basically you're never here, blah blah blah. So Clark's having a hard time, and Daddy Kent is basically telling him, you're just lucky they don't hate you. They don't want to spend time with you. They don't want to be around you, fine, but you're just lucky they don't hate you. Some of us aren't that lucky. Because they're trying to get Pierre to talk, and they're sort of using Matteo. So that's sort of happening in the background. And just to finish off the other story, I don't know which to go first. Okay, Pierre's story. Okay, so she's in there. Lois is trying to get information out of her. She really doesn't give it to her. Lois leaves. She comes back in and basically says, you should tell your son, the truth. And then when she sort of says she will or whatever, she basically uses that, and she basically says she will. So they bring Matteo in because she didn't actually know he was there, and he has the cure in some little cufflink injection. So he pokes that in her arm, tells her it works fast, and to meet her at where it all began. And then he leaves, and of course no one knows what's happened because they're apparently not listening in because they're idiots. I guess they just show them talking in the other room like they're not listening in. I'm like, how is this not being listened into and recorded? She might say just the smallest little clue. But, okay, problem story, whatever. But basically, Lois goes in to talk to her, and she's like, I'm not going to tell you anything now because that was before. Before what? I got cured. I got better. So she basically has her powers back. She trashes the place and escapes. She does leave Lois behind. She was sort of taking her like, Lois, get me out of here. And there is one nice moment where she says, look, I really wish this had been different. I think in, another place we could have been great friends. And I think they could have. But yeah, so she escapes. There's some injuries, but I don't think she kills anyone. And before that, Lois is like, you just incriminated your son. Now he's part of all this. And she's like, we'll protect him. I'm like, yeah, because running from the law for the rest of your life, that's really what your son wants for a great life. What's he going to live like you two, like gangsters hiding out in a back room with people protecting you for the rest of life? I mean, God, not the best parenting on either part to involve their son and use their son to free the mother. It's pretty bad. And then while this is all happening, Kyle shows up at Clark's, at the Kent's house, and he says, I know your son has superpowers. And he thinks it's Jonathan, not Jordan. And he's like, look, that's ridiculous. And then he hears what's happening at the DOJ or whatever it is. And he's like, I gotta go. And he's like, you're not getting out of my way. And it's like, oh no, how's this going to end? He just pushes him with two fingers and knocks him back. And he's like, what? And I'm like, oh no. He's just giving it away. He's going to work out his Superman so easy. And then he basically lifts off and goes and leaves Kyle just standing there looking up like, what the fuck? And I'm like, oh my God, he just outed himself. Now he knows. How can he do that? I mean, there must have been some other way to get around this. He could have just stormed off. The kids came out. They could have stopped him from going in. He could have zoomed off and came back a minute later and he wouldn't have even known. But yeah, so he kind of outed himself as Superman to protect the kids, I guess. But yeah, so that's kind of the end of the episode where I think that's the end of the episode. Yeah, basically the Pierre escapes. Lois is fine. The kids are all grounded. Yeah, that's where it is. I hope I didn't forget something. But yeah, so I was just really like, oh my godding that they just, outed themselves in front of Kyle. But I was feeling bad for Kyle the whole time. So I guess they were leading up to that, and but I don't know how to feel about them doing that. Too many people know the secret. It's a bit too much. And I guess what's going to happen now? We've got this super villain, and the son who's dating the other guy's daughter. So it's I don't know where they're going with this. Is it just a matter of now we have to capture these people, and she's not sick anymore? So how does that affect that? Are they going to kill her now? Is Superman just going to come up against her just like another person? I guess that's going to be the whole drama at the end of the season. But I don't know how many more episodes we've got. I know I missed last week's episode and this week's episode. This is last week's episode, so this week's episode I still got to watch. And I think there's only a couple more. I meant to check how many there were this season. We don't know. I don't think we know if the show's being renewed or not. But I'll have to look at that.